really want me to talk about it. I'm going to give you my honest thoughts. I'm still a huge Zack fan. Here's my honest thoughts on Rebel Moon in the future with Zack Snyder. What's going to happen to Zack? All right. I think that the Snyder Cut always existed in some form. Okay. During that time, when Warner Brothers got rid of him, that really affected his career. So there was a lot of reasons he wanted the Snyder Cut out, and I think he made it better, and he's thought about every single thing that's in that movie more than any other movie he's ever done, for years and years and years on what could have been. So that's why it's like legit. That's why the Snyder Cut is so good. It's because he had all the time in the world to make that the best ever. I also think he's an amazing visual director, but some of his top talent, when they were on his team with Warner Brothers, I don't know if they're all with him right now. And he's taken on more responsibilities himself, including, what did Zack get known for when he was at his biggest, before the Snyder Cut perp? Working in adapting IPs, right? IP work.
Sure.
So with those two factors, well, he was already working on Army of the Dead while he was getting the Snyder Cut release officially announced. But I think this combination of him losing some of his talent on his, that doesn't mean that he's not done any talent left. It's just that there's a higher caliber there, There's a higher caliber of all his team that was working on those productions that may not be where, and I got to do research on that. Who exactly was working on him with Justice
It might
League,
also
and then who went through and started working with him on the Netflix, because I think he's doing more of the stuff himself. And then also, when his strength, like a lot of the Move On crowd that said, move on, let Zack move on, this is the Snyderverse and his own IP. I still think right now, even though I'm very interested in his own IP, unlike Nolan, I think his strength is working on, after seeing this, I think his strengths are actually working on other IPs that aren't his. And I don't think this is going to help him at all, this release, even though I think it's going to get good numbers on Netflix worldwide. It already is. It's a good watch on Netflix if you already pay for Netflix. But besides Netflix and ecosystem, this is not going to do him any favors, including, now I know what, no spoilers, now I know what Grace Randolph was saying with the violence and some of the uncomfortable scenes, which really make villains. They are villains, but that is a rough thing to put in a PG-13 movie. If anyone knows what I'm talking about. DL, did you see it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Wait,
So,
can I just make one extra point? Can I just make one extra point to go with what you said?
But go ahead.
It could, because you mentioned about him not having his crew, where you think some of the visuals were lacking. It could also be, I've heard rumors of Netflix mandates in terms of what they want a certain look on screen that is very digestible for like iPads and phones, where they want a lot of space more than clutter in terms of that. And that might have affected Snyder's style, because I know Snyder likes texture, he likes clutter, he likes stuff like that. Yeah. And that might have been one of the things that affected his visuals, was the Netflix mandate, supposedly. This is a rumor.
And I also think if this knocked it out of the park, that the sells the SJL to Netflix could actually be possible. But I don't think Rebel Moon was a masterpiece or anywhere near a masterpiece to warrant that, unless the director's cut is like freaking amazing, which I still think I didn't want to be the Zack Snyder fan that says, oh, wait till the director's cut comes out. But I do think, and not to get into spoilers here, Blood Axe, Ray Fisher's character, he was one of the ones I was looking forward to the most. And I without getting into spoilers, I wish there was more there. I'm thinking that his character and his physicality of his character there's going to be a big story. I'm assuming there's going to be a big story with the blood axes and the director's cut that they just didn't show here. So I actually think when things are popular, when things are trending, that opens up doors. And there is a possibility. If you look at Netflix, all the DCE movies are on Netflix right now. Of course, Warner Brothers is licensing them. So if this was a groundbreaking sci-fi movie, action sci-fi movie, and it doesn't have to be like James Cameron levels, it could have pushed the needle towards Netflix. I just don't think it's good enough to do that, and I have a lot of issues with it. And I'm gonna watch it again. I still like it. I gave it a 7 out of 10 as a generous. There's still some really cool things in here, but some of this stuff is just like cool to be cool, like character designs and creature designs, and you're just like, okay. But you think about Star Wars, sometimes Star Wars has some creatures that are really interesting, and there's not a really backstory at first. But I believe Zack is stuck at Netflix for now. And as much as people said to Snyder fans, let him move on and do other things, I think his best work is when he works on someone else's IP. And I hope we get to a point, if he just wants to make his own IP for the rest of his career, I will support that too. I'm gonna watch it all. But I actually think to Zack Snyder to get back at the level where he was, because we've seen 2 projects now without him working on a major studio besides Netflix, a streaming service. And they both were fun watches, but they were not on the level with Dawn of the Dead, 300, Watchmen, BVS, and the Snyder Cut, to me. And those were really next level. Like, the thing that's frustrating being a Zack Snyder fan is when people see this, like, see, he's not very good. And I'm like, oh, he is great. It's just, I don't know. Like Christopher Nolan, what's his strength? Is it IP stuff or his original IP stuff? I think he did really good on The Dark Knight, but if you really think Christopher Nolan, I think his strength is his own original ideas. Maybe there's a future for that with Zack. I don't see it yet. I see fun movies, interesting movies I want to see, movies I'll rewatch, but not of the caliber of when he was working on someone else's IP. And part of that's he's a fan. He's a fan of this stuff. So that's my thoughts. I'm sorry to take up the I just got to be raw and real. This is how I'm thinking right now. I'm still a huge fan. I'm still got my seat for all the things he does next. But I would love to hear your thoughts on my take there. And I want to be positive. I hope there's an original IP that he does for Netflix that's just a banger and a masterpiece. This ain't it yet. I'm sorry. This ain't it. This isn't going to move the needle anywhere. This is going to be a fun watch. But I was thinking Rebel Moon was going to be a series to compete with Disney Star Wars TV shows. And I don't think this competes. I think Ahsoka was better than this. The Mandalorian season 3 was better than this. And I didn't, not to replace Star Wars so I can have 2 great sci-fi fantasy. And I don't think it's on that level, even though some of the ideas are very cool. All right, go ahead.